Welcome in, welcome in.
Welcome back to Do It With the Story.
I'm Stacey,
I'm Morgan.
and we're back here on the couch. Should we cheers and get settled in?
We shall. Let's get you settled in.
Cheers. Do this.
Happy
Weekend.
Thursday.
Happy Thursday. I said weekend, obviously.
Because we're recording on the weekend. We have full-time jobs, but
happy Thursday.
happy Thursday, listeners.
Been a great weekend.
I was going to say, it's been a great weekend. It's been...
We got inspired for some content topic.
Yes, we did. Last night, we went to our friend's house that we, I should say, grew up with. Around. He wasn't. I wasn't coming home from college and seeing Joe Cease at the house.
And even that, you met him, or like your first meeting of him, because he did run track with us when we were children.
Well,
for like a season.
And I'm not going to remember that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't. Dad did.
Yeah.
And he was at my 31st birthday surprise party. I was single. We were not dating then.
No.
He was there as one of my guy friends.
Right. That's what I mean. Yeah, exactly. Well, and so you're kind of teeing us up right there, saying he was there as one of your guy friends. I won't even get into the connection of why he was there and, you know, friendships continuing throughout time. But so yada, yada, yada. We're at our friend's house last night, birthday party for our friend and all the kids. And we're having just a blast. And Donahue and I are on the way home. Angel's asleep in the back. And I said, we both, you know, of course we have an hour and something drive home. So we're recapping the night. And, you know, Joe was just like, I just love that whole crew, like, and then talking about the hosts, like, they're just so intelligent and warm, and like their house was beautiful, yada, yada. It was like this awesome farmette type of vibe. Farmette, yeah. And I said, you know, what's interesting too is that, you know, that because this is our crew of friends from home. This is like one of those friend groups from home. And I said, you know, what's interesting is that Cease, Stacey's husband, was not part of that friend group. I said he was friends with the birthday host, but separately, like I gave the explanation I just did that I did not know Cease.
Yeah. And it was like Morgan was saying is the connection was he was always friends with everyone there because it was high school friends and spouses. And some of us, myself and Joe, just happened to be also check both those boxes.
Yeah.
But it was just that there were, you know how it is in high school, you can have your like friends from sports and your friends that are like your weekend crew. It was like Cease and the host of the party were like weekend crew. And the host and I were also in and out of that, like not a different weekend crew, but college. We went to college together. So some of my other close friend from college and him, anyway, lots of overlap, but then nurtured a friendship that was, both Stacey and I had a different level of friendship with this friend nourished after high school.
Yes. And I think
that tied everybody back together.
And that's what my point is, Morgan. I'm speaking now, as I know you probably can't tell. But my point is that group of friends there last night, I'm brought into that group because of you. Kiki's brought into that group because of you. And you know, that dynamic, I think, of that crew of people really stayed connected because you were the girl in that crew of guys in high school and college that then the Williams sisters are then the additions to you being there. Well, what I'm saying.
Right. It helps to tie in all the, like the different, like if I was friends with, XYZ friends from high school and the host of the party. And as you get older, when you have get-togethers, you also help to rekindle, you know what I'm saying? To kind of merge everybody.
Totally. Exactly. And I think, but what I'm getting at is our topic today is when I was like, dude, you've been talking on and off, Stacey and I have been talking about the benefit of opposite sex friendships.
Yeah, huge.
And so that's what I was really getting at is, maybe today's the day that we talk about that, because here we are sitting among our group of friends that was all opposite sex friendships.
Yeah.
And from, yes, we've all known each other from home, but the relationships have been closer and stronger at different times because of high school because of college and then adulthood. And now even I'm closer with that group because of now having kids and we're all on the same journey.
Right. And living in this area where we're down the street. So when, our friends are going to come from home and visit, I'm like, oh yeah, Morgan, come down or whatever.
Yeah.
And
But the depth of it.
But what I will say is just to give more clarity to the dynamic, like Morgan's saying, it was guys and me
growing
initially,
up together.
and then bringing in Kiki and I, our other sister who's a year older than me, we also went to college with some of these guy friends that we grew up with. And so then it was like, okay, this other layer of the post-college connection. And then my other girlfriend who sadly she couldn't make it last night because Kitty was super sick. But, again, bringing in those other connections. So it was this.
You're bringing it, and that's my
I was
point.
the token woman.
You were the token woman in the group, and that's what I'm trying to get at, is that you had those consistent friendships with several of those guys, and it fostered, I personally think, it fostered different safe spaces, relationships for those guys, because if you don't have either a sister that you're close with or, a cousin, or you are going out of your way as a child through adulthood to make friends of the opposite sex. I know many people that, even a recent friend of mine that I have made recent meeting in the past couple of years, we've become friends. And even recently we've become closer because this friend just outright was like, I need to talk to a woman.
Yeah,
I need to,
a male friend, and he's single
in his
50s.
And Joe and I, my husband, Donahue and I made the relationship with this person together. And so when he says, hey, Morgan, can I sit down and have coffee with you? I want to talk about this girl I want to date with. There's no threat to Joe because it's someone that we know together. I'm not saying to Joe, oh, hey, I went to the gym, met a guy, and I'm going to go have coffee with him, and you're not going to be brought into that dynamic.
Right.
And I think that's what I'm trying to say. We're talking about platonic male friendships where the lines are clear, and we're not talking about, your work wife that you keep at an arm's distance from your real wife, and that then becomes a problem, which is, I can totally understand why.
Yeah, because that's a one-sided explanation, and we can get into that a little bit more in a minute.
Yeah. But
it's like you said too, with it, it's not just like, oh, I brought in other people. Typically women, we hear this, I think a buzz phrase or some buzzwords lately have been, and there's even, I think, a Hulu show about the whole topic of women having this in households, in marriages, typically, women bearing the mental load.
Yes.
Meaning,
yes.
They're doing the extras, they're the cleaning, they're worrying about getting the kids to the events, but they're booking the dentist appointments and the doctor appointments, but they're also organizing the events. It's like I saw yesterday, a perfect example of this was a reel on Instagram where a woman was saying, hey guys, Mother's Day is coming up. So for all the dads out there, and then she did edit it to say, for all the parents out there celebrating mothers, including transgender couples and whatever.
Everything.
But she was saying, here are 3 tips for how to have a great Mother's Day, and listen up now because, and even Mother's Day is next or this coming weekend when this airs. And she's like, number 1, plan days in advance. And she's like, and by that I mean, we all have seen it. 2 out on Mother's Day, the husband goes out for 2 hours to go get whatever. And she's like, also take the kids with you. And the next tip. So anyway, she goes into these tips of like, prepare in advance, do go get the breakfast, do take the kids with you to the grocery store when you go do this stuff. And also Mother's Day is going to be for 3 days because one day she's hanging out with her girlfriends, one day she's celebrating her mother-in-law and her own mom, and then one day is totally about her.
Exactly.
But just the fact that that was, I've never seen a reel, and it wouldn't be something to prepare mothers for how to have a successful Father's Day. I can't tell you how many times I've been at Mother's Days where the women that have children, whether they're the grandmothers, the moms, whatever, are planning it. And also, I can speak for myself as a woman who doesn't have children yet, where, and again, I like celebrating those in my life that have the kids because I don't want the women that are always there with me helping to plan Christmas, the parties. But I'm like, okay, the dads, the brothers, the mothers, it doesn't happen. We live in a family where it's, we are 5 daughters, right? 5 sisters. We're all always planning joint things together. We're sharing that mental load. Now, on my in-law side, on Joe's side, it's a mixture of sisters and brothers. If his mom wasn't planning, it doesn't happen. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like the events. And so that, I think, is where, sure, you heard an episode, another one, I think, where I had like this fear of not including others. Mm-hmm. But my fear of not including others is also like, I'm planning the event. Here, this person can come. Absolutely bring your friend. Like, the women usually take on that communication role, that nourishing the friendship, the relationship, the events, the setting the tone, even in a household for the kids, to how we celebrate others. And in a group of guys, like a perfect example is like a bachelorette of men and a bachelorette of women staying at the same location. And this is, I've experienced this before, where a couple on different opposite weekends, we stayed at the same rental house as the group of the groom's side, the girl's side did, right? We had the same bachelorette, essentially, like agenda going to this lake. Guys show up, there's no agenda. They don't have dinner reservations. There's no food for the house. There's no sheets. People are sleeping on mattresses. Girls show up. Everybody has an assignment. We've communicated who's doing what. We don't have the bride doing anything. We don't want her to be stressed because we also know, realistically, the bride is planning all of the wedding herself. Anyway, I could go into that for days, but I say that too because there's a distinct difference in how women communicate and with women and how our brains function and how we nourish. Because also last night, that party was for our guy friend, but his wife
threw the party, hosted the party,
and she reached out to the guest list.
She reached out to everyone. She also had to get him amped up to even have the party.
Right.
Because exactly.
Right.
It's the woman being like, and she said it. It's not about you. Like, obviously it is your birthday, but we just need an excuse. The older we get, the less time we have. We need an excuse to get together.
Always appreciated that for her because on my end of it is I have another woman, right? Joining, like, it was so comforting when it's like having siblings when you're like, oh, good, they're dating a great guy that I like that could potentially be my brother-in-law. When my guy friends start bringing in women, I was always worried, because you're like the other girl, but that are sharing some of the load
and also understanding, yes, and contributing. And so a couple things to highlight as well. Like, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And Stacey had also sent to me yesterday, Mel Robbins posted that, and we'll have to repost it as well, this video of 2 men, clearly one of their bonding experiences going to, it's a football soccer game. UK football, soccer game. And clearly their friendship over the years, they consistently go to games together. So showing them
a reel of them at these games.
Showing them continue to communicate, or just hanging out at the games. Very surface level, like, hey, how's it going? Oh, good. And they're like, they have to have something. Even I remember Jane Fonda talking about this too. Like, women will just sit around, need nothing to do. Give me a glass of wine and we're chatting. where men are like, we got to be in front of the TV. We have to have, they need something else.
Yeah, we're going fishing together. And think of the cliche shit you hear. We're going golfing. We're going fishing.
Which we're not
going
saying
hunting.
There's any problem that. But if you're not, while you are hunting, while you're at the game, if you are not actually asking, hey, how are you doing?
How are you?
How are you? And then with the follow-up question, because this is the point of the Mel Robbins thing that she had posted, and I'm saying Mel Robbins because that's where we saw it, but she's reposting something of this. The one guy is saying, "How are you?" But it's a surface level response back.
Yeah, everything's
good.
How's
but
good
it's
work?
The follow-up questions of like, "Oh, great. So the wife is good. Like, I remember she got that new job. Is it adding stress?" Like asking the follow-up questions,
right?
Because yada yada. What ends up happening at the end of this post that Mel had put up and reshared was the guy that's consistently seeming happy and asking, oh, how are you, but not really necessarily following up. The other guy is not asking him any follow-up questions back.
Right.
Then this guy ends up, clearly they've implied that he ends up, committing suicide.
Right.
And
the commercial, when you're watching it and they're showing the friend that's like, hey, how you going? It's game day. You're assuming
is the peppy one.
That's going to be, and the other friend is just sitting there demure of a game, like, it's good, not getting up out of his seat cheering. You are watching these, and again, it's showing like a time lapse, right, of them going to all these games over the years. You're assuming that the friend that's more demure is going to be the one who's not sitting in that seat that they're celebrating at the end,
sick or whatever. Yeah.
And it was the friend that's getting up out of his seat, cheering and saying like, "Hey, another game day," was the one that then they put the scarf over the seat at the end, celebrating him that he's not there.
Yeah, and they emphasize at the end with the words that actually pop up are something along the lines of exactly this. It's more than what you see on the surface.
Yes.
Like really understand what's going on in someone's life and ask the probing questions.
Right.
And so that plus Mental Health Awareness Month, plus this, party that we go to last night, realizing how consistently throughout all of our sister lives, we have, especially I think those guy friends from home, where we have been that shoulder to cry on, when shit does hit the fan.
Yeah.
We're at that age now where we've
the
gone
one
to
that's
the
going
funerals.
to talk it out with you too, though. Like,
right.
When you're trying to date someone or when you're in an issue
and because
or there's
we're
a
talkers,
work conflict. Yes.
We are not going to just ask. We are going to continue to push and continue to communicate because we know you.
Right.
And we also grew up in that household of like,
exactly, communication. And I should say too that while high school and college, yes, I had this core group of guy friends. All my best friends, like, are men.
Mm-hmm.
Have been since I was, my best friend of the longest. We've known each other pre-elementary school. Our moms were close friends. That it's also like, sometimes I think I credit it to always having started my life with a male friendship where like, I didn't have the societal norm, I'm using air quotes, of like, it's me and a girl. I mean, I have many close girlfriends too that I'm like very close with, but I spent my childhood defending being best friends with a guy, not coming into it in high school, people being like, oh, you really like him, you're just like in the friend zone. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I think because of that, I mean, this friend too, James Robinson, you're a freaking doll. We would talk for hours as kids, and I would tell him everything and vice versa, that it wasn't, I didn't understand, I guess, that guys aren't honest with each other as much. And I think because then we have these male friendships from a young age, adolescence into college, when I'm then with all the guys or college guys, I was always just inserting my authentic self. Like, I'm going to give you my opinion. I'm going to say, don't do that.
Yeah. The way that I would think of, your relationship with James is much more,
it's like a sibling.
Is a sibling. Exactly. I was going to say it's a brother. And there's actually, I remember reading an article about this of, when you have a relationship with someone that you have known them at such a young age that is platonic for both and there isn't that sexual attraction for both, because, think of it like an adopted, sibling. You're not going to, if you meet that sibling as an infant, you're not going to be attracted to them. It's the exact same thing. And they were saying that they see this dynamic of like, if it's, whether when it's someone that from such a young age that you don't even remember not being with them, you're thinking of them, you're having the same response to them as you would like a sibling. So I'm saying, it is interesting to your point that you're like, I have known this person since, like they were in utero.
Right.
And so it's a different dynamic, and people not understanding that, like scientifically proven that is very, in quotes, normal, I guess what I'm saying. And because I think I'm pointing that out just to say that, like, we're not saying that your best friend needs to be a guy. I think you're pointing out that because
you can't get everything from the you can't get everything you need. Just like they say in life, you can't get everything you need from your partner. Like when people say like, oh, my partner's my best friend. It's like, okay, but they're not. Like they're your husband. Like Joe is my husband. While we are so close, he knows everything about me. He's not my best friend in that I'm going to. The best friend is the person I would call and be like, oh my God, I need to vent to you for a second.
Right.
That knows me, loves me, is not going to it's not going to also take it out like, oh my God, what is Joe doing if I'm like mentioning a thing. But you can't get everything from, if I just had female friendships, I wouldn't have that perspective. And for me, having male friendships of men who I trusted, who uplifted me, protected me, looked out for me, that, and because you all heard the other episodes of where we grew up, they were white males. It gave me a level of confidence that I didn't have, and a level of protection that my parents loved when we were in college, of knowing like I'm with these guys that they were able to see, be around, nourish, have, them at their dinner table too. But it all, I wasn't going, if I never had male friendships, I would seriously still as an adult now be like, what the heck? I don't understand men at all. Like it helped me to understand men in my own romantic relationships. And I think that is also something that was interesting, of when you are that, whether your best friend, whether you're a woman or a guy, your friend, you have close friends of the opposite sex, it's like a magnet, right? Like I joke with Morgan before this, to so many guys, I have been their closest girlfriend, and maybe they wouldn't call me their best friend, but I just mean in a way of like, have told me some very personal things that they're calling me because they feel like they can, some have said, we'd like your opinion, whatever, but you feel more comfortable. It's a societal, it's okay to talk to women about your feelings. That's what we're going to do.
Exactly.
Like to your point, I could have a girlfriend show up here today that's like, I haven't seen you, we're in town, and we're going to sit down and we're going to go there.
The whole point of me seeing you is to catch up. I don't want to watch a game.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. That's how women function. The whole point of me seeing you, having you in my house,
you don't want to go on a first date with a guy to a movie.
No. I do not want to do that. I would do that at home. I'd rather be in my sweats. Yeah, exactly. And so, I think, and it's so interesting too, because even, we were talking about as well, with, the friend that I was mentioning in his 50s, and, another friend that I made, we were both in our early 20s from in school, and, having those opposite sex relationships were very important, not only for them, but are important for me as well. There's that reminder of, and I remember even saying to a friend of mine, a girlfriend of mine, venting about her, it was at the time boyfriend, now husband. And I remember saying to her, yeah, but that's just men. And I wasn't just clocking that from me being married.
Right, because we didn't have brothers.
No, we didn't have brothers. I wasn't saying that just because of like, oh, my husband happens to do the same thing. I was like, okay, let's not cloud here I'm not saying that you don't have an issue or something that you need to see a therapist or whatever, or have a vent session with me, but I'm not just going to pretend like anything that a girlfriend is complaining about is worth, it holds weight. You know what I'm saying? Like because of my experience with men and seeing my guy friends do that same kind of thing, I'm like, no. Let's take a step back and understand that some of that is just male communication.
Exactly. And having that experience with male communication and being able to see men, and this is me speaking, Stacey, from my especially college experience, because, then you're getting more into randomly dating. We were all single at different times and we're not living at home with our parents.
Yes.
So our friends who are, guy friends that may have sisters, they're not there. They don't know the people that we're interacting with, but I do. Those friendships with people of the opposite sex become invaluable and I mean, we're talking mostly about our experience then in how our friendships with men or people of the opposite sex have helped us with our, romantic relationships and dating. But I reference this all the time at work. Like I have also, and not just in my current role, really, like I'm saying my career, I have so many times mentioned it to other women, or times when women have been like, oh, this guy and that, or da-da-da. And I'm like, yeah, but read the room a little bit. Like he's agreeing with that guy because he's in a room of guys. You're the only woman. Guys are going to kind of agree with the other one, if not confident, where I was like, I can tell this guy probably didn't have a lot of girlfriends in high school, or it's not about interpreting how this man maybe once was. It's being able to be in a room of dudes and not being intimidated.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. I hadn't even thought about the work competence piece. My first best friend growing up was a guy. And when you consistently, you're putting yourself, and then, we have parents and grandparents that are also that representative too. But when you are consistently around opposite sex and they are friends, I had not thought about that at all. That like that's such a game changer. I was never intimidated. I hadn't even thought about this. I was never intimidated by the males that I was sitting across from. And I remember even thinking there were times when I was first out of school as a recruiter and I'm sitting across from a CFO interviewing them, and I am like, fake it till you make it. Like, yeah, but same. I was hanging and he was asking me advice, and I was kind of like, well,
where you also can go into your comfortable, like, I don't know. Like I honestly do. Just like if you were with a woman, I'm like, okay, I'm hanging with one of the guys.
Yeah.
Like I'm hanging with one of my guy friends.
And you know how to relate.
And it's not just that I have one guy friend. It's like I have many. So if I'm also at times having to do the, like you're saying in an interview, we're talking, just shooting the shit. What are you interested? I can then go to like we've all done it. Like, it's like I laugh that, I grew up as an athlete. I love sports. I don't give a shit about watching sports. Like, I don't watch the NFL. Like I will go to a baseball game when I'm there. I'm socializing. But
you're not
when
worried
I'm
about
in that interview room and they're like, oh, I'm like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Like, did you see who, the Ravens picked? Like, if they're mentioning I'm like, oh my gosh, don't even get me started. Totally. I'm like, I think our last chance was when Flacco was on the team. Like, just saying, I'm making this all up. Totally. But sometimes you have to just like you'll hear this in the Black community, also talking about like code switching, right? I do the same thing as a woman. I like code switch. I do mirror body language. And now in this remote world, I mirror, if a guy's on the phone all, Stacey, fuck this, I can't believe this happened. And I'm like, like I have to match that. I can't be timid.
You know what this makes me think of? Not to go completely down the work rabbit hole, but I have to mention this now, is when you had that, you were on a call of all men, and that one man goes, I just want to curse, but there's a woman on the line. And you were like, say whatever the fuck you want to say.
I had to come off and be like, I said, no lady on this line's going to be upset about it. I go, what you don't know is that I have a mouth worse than a sailor and probably everybody on this phone. So please, let's go. Let's hear it. Come off mute. Yeah. And I wasn't intimidated to say it.
No.
And to stand up for yourself. But anyway, It's a whole other
thing, but it's a good point though, of that's all in the same realm. And I think that actually makes the perfect point of what the center and why we wanted to highlight this is because of the benefits for you personally as a woman or a man that the opposite sex relationship can bring you. And and I should also caveat this with many of the men that we have many straight cis male friends, but we also have many gay male friends.
Yes.
And so everyone is on the same page. Because a man is gay does not make them a woman. Does not make them a girlfriend. That is not the same thing.
Exactly. And I would highlight this too, because it's a very good point. Every personality is different. So you could have, we're generalizing, right? Like we also can have the straight cisgendered male that is very open. How are you about his feelings? Will cry willingly.
Have them, absolutely.
All of that. Yep. But just like Morgan was saying. And so in the same token too, you can have like our other really close friend, Warren, our best friend, who also is like our neighbor. He is the gay man that's open, that's, how are you? Let's sit there and talk
Always
about it.
Always had a million girlfriends.
He will unpack and has a ton of girlfriends as well. Then we have other gay friends who are a little bit more closed off, not as vulnerable, more, especially when, regardless of when as a gay man you may come out or let people in to your world, you're still able to be in spaces where people see you, especially work. We've seen that a lot with some of our gay friends. Where people only need to know as much about you as you tell them.
Talk about code
switching. So you get to show up as however you might want to appear. And that is something that you can show up as a straight man. And I mean that in the way of like, unless you're talking about who you're sleeping with, who you're dating, especially in the world now where we are in this remote culture and it's especially working in bigger corporate environments. I don't know what my coworkers, who they're seeing. I don't know their wives, their husbands, whatever.
And I'll say this too. One of my close gay friends said this to me. I don't even remember what we were talking about, but said it years ago that we were having a conversation, something along the same lines, and talking about how, I know exactly what it was, because it was around the Black Lives Matter movement or when George Floyd was murdered. And him and I were talking about this. He's very, just super liberal, immediately started reading all these books, already had, gay friends, Black friends, all the things. But what we went into, he was saying, as a gay white man, no one has to know. It's not like being a Black person. You can't see it. But he said in the same breath, but I'll say for myself personally, as soon as I open my mouth, I'm gay, because I'm saying it because my best friend said this, that because of his mannerisms, because of how he...
Right, but at the same time, we all know men that we've worked with, been around, where people are going, oh, well, how society portrays gay men. Oh, is this guy gay? And you're like, no.
Exactly. But my point is, we're talking about there are so many gay men that you would have no idea.
Exactly.
They are not wearing it on their sleeve.
Right. Or being forthcoming with my husband saying that, in the intro of their work about me.
Exactly. And so it's the same, to Stacey's point, you please do not even think about coming at us being like, well, if half your friends are gay, that's a totally different conversation. Yeah. No, it's not. And we are absolutely talking about a very large mix of straight cis men and gay men.
Right. And that's the thing too. Maybe some of you are listening to this and they're like, oh, well, I am a white cisgender straight man. And I feel like I actually am having these conversations, but I don't have a ton of girlfriends. I would say there's also some exclusions, which is sisters.
Yes.
Again, for us, we grew up in a house where it was sisters, 5 women, and we didn't have brothers.
Yep.
We had male cousins, but they were much older than us when we were younger, or in our one male cousin that's like our age group that we were close with. other side of the country. So we weren't like in school talking about each other's problems, you know, seeing it in that way where it became this natural thing to go to that male cousin and vice versa, him come to us to talk about all of life, you know, where it's not just focused on the things that touch both of us, like family dynamics or, you know what I mean? So I think yes, again, not everyone, there's exceptions, but like Morgan saying, when we were talking about the Mel Robbins, the Instagram reel about the two men at the game, it's great. These two men are hanging out. You're taking that time. So in one way too, if you hear your husband, you're like, well, the only time my husband is going to see his guy friends or talk to men I know is when he's, you know, he goes golfing or he goes fishing or whatever. But it's what's happening on that golf course. What's happening in that boat when you're going fishing? Are you talking about the day? And I know, and I say this too, because I'm talking a little bit about with Joe, I do know with some of those men that he's going out with that are closer, like the friend last night, I know they are not just going to be fishing. They are going to talk about life. They're going to share their, you know, safe place stuff, which is the best. I love that you can have this great friendship of sharing and going deeper than just saying, how are you? And the person's going to say, oh, I'm good. Kids are good. It's like, ask some probing questions, you know? And I think it's interesting too, because, you know, our group of guy friends or my guy friends, at least from college and whatnot, you know, there would be jokes about like, oh, again, on the mental load, you know, of course, calling me mom at some points. It wasn't just mom because I'm the woman. I'm like, have the big purse that I'm carrying everyone's cell phones when we're at the bar. It's also, it's interesting because you hear this. And of course, our dad heard it all the time. When someone says, oh, do you have kids? And he would reply, I do. I have 5 daughters. What's the first thing out of people's mouths? Oh my gosh, 5 girls.
Poor
I
you.
feel bad for you. Poor you. And our dad used to get really pissed. Like, he was just like, 1, you're tired of hearing it. 2, his reply before Mara was born was 4 queens is hard to beat. And then it was, he also, when people would say, oh, you have 5 girls, said I have 5 daughters. You know, it was always this, he was so used to people talking down about how bad it was. Mom tells the story about when I was born and she was in the hospital, and this is Stacey speaking. And so I was the 4th daughter at that point. And they were going to the nursery to see me, and they passed by this woman who was clearly had just given birth herself. You know, she's in a hospital gown, maybe in a wheelchair by the nursery, and she's crying. And my mom's like, oh my gosh, I can only imagine. Bad. And she said, oh, I'm sorry, is everything okay? Like, and the woman said, yes, but we just had a daughter, and my husband's so upset it's not a son. And my mom said, well, we just had our 4th daughter, and we couldn't be happier.
Yeah, and I think she made some point of saying we couldn't be happier, and we're so glad that she's healthy.
We're so glad that she's healthy. Yeah,
because and you know, oh sorry.
No, I was just gonna say. So there's that societal. Yes, that's a whole other topic, but I say that because it's a. You hear men too, like now that we have friends with young kids or friends that are still having kids or haven't yet had kids. Say those things. Oh, I can't imagine having girls. I hope I don't have boys. I was called the mom too by guy friends, because I also was women. We are more likely to play a little bit safe in situations. So when my guy friends are surfing on top of cars and, you know, doing stupid guy stuff in college, I'm like, no, don't do that. Are you an idiot? I'll call your fucking parents. Like, I am momming them because I'm like, are you dumb? So all these people that are like, and I said to a friend recently, I can make my daughter take birth control. I can't make my son put on a condom.
Yep.
I'm like, so think about it. In that regard too, again, that we can go even deeper there, but we won't. But I just say on the side of like, if you're a parent, I would encourage having friendships of the opposite sex early on, because again, when I was in college, my parents knew that, especially when they would say, what'd you do last night? And I would be like, you know, me, Adam, and Adam, there's a lot of Adams. Me, Adam, and Adam went out last night. We went dancing. They're like, okay, great.
No worries.
They know them.
You're getting home.
And
I will say the exact same thing. I'm not going to go into it, but the exact same thing happened with mom and dad when I was in college. So thankful that it was literally me and my one best girlfriend and everybody else was guys around us. And my mom was like so thankful. And there was one specific night where it went a little too far. And, you know, my one guy friend was the one that was like, took me home and, you know, da-da-da-da-da. And when I say, you know, drinking,
da-da-da-da-da,
being a child and doing the college things that you shouldn't be doing. But it was the guy friends that they knew were always going to get us home.
And that's a great point too, like you're saying, because it's not just like, oh, the women usually are more cautious, play a little bit more safe. They're always the hero. It takes two, and you can just like in anything, play to the strengths of it. Guys were less likely, and I used to joke with them and say, oh, you guys are built-in cock blocks. But at the same time in college, it was a benefit for me that I had built-in cock blocks. Yeah. You know what I mean? Especially like you're saying.
You don't need to when you're drunk.
We're drunk. We're in different scenarios, frat parties and bars and whatever else. But it's interesting because that role of being or at least for me, feeling like I had I mean, we both always say that we're the people that are going to speak up, right? But it starts for women, the mental load piece or the responsibility piece. It starts at a young age of when I can't tell you how many times in elementary school, I can still remember my first grade, I'll call him seat buddy, that my teacher was like, put me next to the kid. Now, again, women, this will be a whole other podcast topic. I have ADHD, didn't get formally diagnosed until I was literally like 30. And ADHD symptoms in women and girls can appear very differently than in boys. So I am the ADHD girl that no one ever knew had ADHD in elementary school. No teacher, no administrator, no my parents. They were like, I'm confused by this. Sat next to the very obvious ADHD hyperactive boy. And the teacher, because I had good grades and would then, you know, do my work and would sit me next to those kids to say like, Stacey will keep them in line.
Yep.
So I was given this responsibility and quite honestly, this go ahead permission to be telling men like, don't do this, you know, boys.
No, and it's very interesting that you bring that up because that was every single one of us. I remember Mom talking about that.
I know for Lindsay too.
Absolutely.
And Kiki. Yep, all of us.
Absolutely. And
teachers admittedly do it now. I mean.
Right. But, you know, it's so interesting though. I wonder the approach with that now and if exactly like you're saying, sure, that was a benefit to him. Was it a benefit to you as the ADHD girl? And I'm genuinely asking. I don't know. I'm not an ADHD, you know, psychologist, therapist, whatever.
Right.
But very interesting that you can only imagine if it was done to each of us, Williams girls, you know, should that have been done? I'm not overthinking it. You are great. Your career, you're smart, blah, blah, blah. But I'm very curious.
Right.
How beneficial looking out for that boy, but like what is really beneficial for you in that?
And
maybe
right,
it was.
Because I never even thought about it from a behavior, but I do think ADHD aside, I do think it gave me this assertive, this green card, like I said, this go ahead with,
especially with men,
telling men what's on my mind and putting them in their and when you're wrong and speaking, especially because I didn't grow up in a house with boys, with brothers, and I didn't have that natural, especially if I had a younger brother to be like, no, don't do this or whatever. But just, that allowance to say like, no, not okay. Which then again, talk about work. It's not just about being in a room where you're like, I'm okay with guys, you know, it's being in a room where I can push back on the guys.
Exactly.
And saying like, no, actually not okay. Or when I'm dealing with a client that's male, that's saying, hey, this, that, and the other, that I can, rather than being the, okay, let me look at that, say, well, you know, here's what I think.
Yeah.
Actually.
And I disagree.
I disagree with that. And that I do think, and especially when I was single in my 30s, and I mentioned in another episode, I lived with two men for like almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And that confidence that also that I was coming home to men. You know,
in a time where you were, I definitely, and I will jump in and speak on behalf of the rest of the sisters assessing, being very thankful that when you had been in a relationship for so long with a man, having a man to talk to every night,
right,
and to come home to men. And I don't get me wrong, I'm not saying she couldn't have functioned if she only had a girlfriend, but you were getting plenty of girl talk.
And
is what I'm saying.
And there was a level of confidence and like you were saying, like masculine energy that I needed.
Yeah.
And it was masculine energy. Again, we've talked about this, especially on the side of being a Black woman that's biracial. My friendships, yes, we had like we talk about, our grandpa really gave us this confidence and was always very much so like telling us speak up and all that. But I had my white male friendships that, of course, again, I work in tech. A lot of the people I'm around are white cisgendered males, but I got this like level of confidence, this, I don't even want to say approval, but it was also those men when I did go through my breakup that were like, I mean, and you could say, of course, all these guys were calling, and one of them was my now husband, but that's different. Him and I had a different level of friendship that wasn't as deep. We were friends.
And these were friends that were also in relationships too. They were not.
They were saying what I needed to hear, which was, this is not you. You are awesome. You're amazing. Like, you are Stacey Williams. Like, they were giving these little pep talks.
You did not need to only hear that from your girlfriends. Of course, you need to hear it from everyone. But hearing it from your sisters and your girlfriends, very different. Hearing that from a straight male.
Right.
That is, and I'm saying, I am really emphasizing this, and it would have been fine if they were single, but I'm saying this was also from a mix of single and married, in relationship. It was validating the fact that you, Stacey, were beautiful and whole, and just give it time.
Right.
You know, you didn't, there's nothing wrong with you. Any man's going to be excited to be with you. That was the wrong person and the wrong time. And, you know, another thing that I want to not forget when you were talking about, you know, kids and you being sat next to yada, yada, because now that I am a mom and I have a son who is very active. I mean, Angel can't sit still. It's a constant.
Angel's a mover and a shaker.
The only time I can get Angel to stop moving is if he is sleeping, or is if I say, okay, you can watch Bluey for, you know, you get 2 episodes of Bluey.
Thank God for Bluey.
Thank God for Bluey. Only time he will not move.
Yes.
And so, or if I have him in a stroller and I give him his book that he can flip the pages and I'm pushing him. But even then, we need to be moving, you know?
Yeah.
So, and I say that because now I really see, you know, between Donahue, my husband, and Angel, the real difference between, you know, men that need to be moving and women that need to be moving, but also just the general difference between men and women. You walk into Angel's classroom, you can give those girls a little coloring pad and they will sit for 15 minutes, just eat their little snack, keep coloring. Oh, can I borrow this? And the boys are on the ground. They have to have.
They're wrestling.
They're wrestling.
What is this? What is that?
And the same thing with now that I have all of my nephews. In a ball on the floor, wrestling, rolling around. We were never doing that. That was not what we wanted to do.
It's just like our niece.
Exactly.
Our little diva and Angel.
Perfect combination.
She's a year older. Our girl naturally goes into a mommy side of the family. It was a matriarchy.
I'm a boss.
So
exactly.
She knows.
I'm the boss.
And Angel is just
in awe.
She's the only one that can tell Angel at all times what to do, not to do. And okay, yes, we'll jump off a cliff, sure, no problem.
And he wants to, you know, Angel's the first one to go and pick up the hair, which we call blower, but the hair dryer.
Yes.
And pretend. Last night on the way to the party.
Dress up with her. He's got his
last night at the party. He wants to I'm putting my makeup on the way to the car. He says, "Mommy, can I have some?" And it was yucca. 100 out of 100. I gave him a little bit of makeup.
I'm dead.
Entertaining my son on the way. But he loves to do his nails with me. I want him to understand that society saying boys shouldn't wear pink or boys shouldn't have. I want him to understand that Harry Styles is fire. And I'm not just saying that because Harry Styles is incredibly talented and a beautiful, hot, sexy, all the things. I'm saying in the sense of I want my son to realize I don't want him to fall into boxes.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's not a bunch of check boxes. No. And I'm not even going to go down this path, but it starts with the whole pink is for girls, blue is for boys.
Or don't cry. Girls can cry, boys can't. Nope, not in our house. The times that Marty, we say, please stop crying, is when he is acting and we know he is crying. So I can't tell him you should not have done that kind of thing. Right. If he is genuinely upset, I tell him cry it out. We use our breathing techniques. There is never a time when any person,
when you're giving him that boys don't cry.
Boys don't cry. And it goes back to that post that Mel Robbins put up. I'm sorry. I genuinely think, because I'll tell you this, and when Stacey and I started to talk about this off camera, off mic, Donahue, my husband, who grew up with sisters and has a close group of guy friends from growing up, they talk. They go deep. One of them is a social worker. I think another, they have these jobs that require them to. One is, there's two of them actually in the medical field. So, you're required to be able to do those things, but also they grew up, they were young. There's many sisters among this group.
Right.
There's a lot of overlap of understanding the female. And I want that for Marty too. I want Donahue goes on more guys' weekends, and not to go golfing. They do not golf. No knocking golf. But I'm saying more guys' weekends to go to a random house to sit and talk, because they don't all live right in Annapolis.
Which is so
needed. Healthy.
Now, I do want to, because not pivot, but I want to go back to two things. The work piece. So we were talking about how friendships with the opposite sex, for us, friendships with men helped us as women in workplaces, especially again, and in spaces for me with tech where it can be predominantly male spaces. But now I do want to talk about that in the situations of, again, where we also give off an energy of an environment of welcoming. We aren't afraid to speak our opinion and just give what in our minds, what we think is logical advice. Mm-hmm. I have developed friendships at work where people always talk about the term work wife, work husband, which I don't like.
I hate it. It's dumb.
Because it's funny because I've had it with women where I'm like, she's my work wife. And we laugh about that in a way of it's a way the husband doesn't know what we're doing, can't relate to our job. Mm-hmm. We are in it together. We're venting to each other, where we don't even work in the same company anymore. Mm-hmm. And we're calling each other for the career advice. Stuff that my husband has to just listen to and in one ear and out the other, because
he doesn't understand,
you're
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now that is different than using, and even when it's opposite sex, you can still have the same thing where you're working with a male that knows your career. But just the term work husband, work wife says emotional cheating.
Yes. And I hate that term.
Yeah. And I say emotional cheating because I've seen it in offices. Mm-hmm. I've seen men try to tell me things that I've had to stop and say, whoa. And I was like, honestly, you just told me all these things about your wife or your girlfriend. I don't know her.
And let me, just because Stacey and I have talked about this, when you're saying told me all these things, talking shit. This guy is not coming in and saying, my wife was a doll this weekend, look what she made.
Yeah, talking shit. Or it's even just a normal, I'm making this up, but as an example,
venting, talking shit.
I was trying to get the kids out the door today because, Stephanie had to go to Pilates too late, and so it's on me to make the lunches, I'm like, did you need to tell me that? Or could you just finish this one of those mornings? That's something where fine if you are stressed and you just need to let it out, but I don't need the detail and the point fingers at
and
the
I was
wife.
going to say, and let's be real too, you just give a really nice example. The examples that we both know that were made, this was genuine, I am putting this person down consistently. their personality.
I am
not inviting them to the happy hour. I am not inviting them to the get together that we're all going to do this Saturday.
She's not like you.
She's not like you. You're fun.
You're chill. Or well, my boyfriend's coming. Yeah, but you guys are different. Or I don't know. Exactly. Or just the typical.
Making it like
when you're in, especially when you're office spaces where it's the time of people are dating and it's like, engagement time of life. And I don't know if I want to propose.
Exactly.
And I'm like, whoa. And I have said this a few times. I'm here I understand life can happen, for the venting. I was like, but I don't know your wife enough.
Exactly.
And I quite personally, I would be pissed as fuck if my significant other was coming into work, and especially at the time I worked on a team of like a lot of women, I'm like coming into work knowing that he worked on a team with many women and this is the perception they're having of me when they don't even know me.
Right.
And I'm like, it's inappropriate. And I am lucky, I say this to Joe all the time, that he's an engineer. So Joe works with many men. Mm-hmm. It's like the same scenario as me, but I am the one woman, and Joe is with a bunch of dudes. And I laugh and I say, I joke, and I'm always like, no women, don't talk to women at work today. Like as a bit when he has to go into the office, a total joke, because I know there aren't any women,
right? Totally.
Like right for him to talk to. But I would be pissed if Joe was not only, if he was working with women all day. I'm like, whatever, great. In my head, I'm thinking that's awesome. Good dynamic. You're getting other perspectives. And I'm sure shit's getting done a lot faster than your team of men. But it would be different if then the workday ends and Joe is texting, Stephanie one-on-one and talking on the phone to Stephanie, or saying like, oh my God, Stephanie was saying this and that and the other about it. You're like, wait a minute, you're talking to Stephanie a lot. Or it becomes we have a client trip. Oh, who's the client team? It's me, Stephanie, and Bob. There's a work event. Yeah, me and Stephanie and Bob are going to get drinks, and me and Stephanie were just like there talking forever. Those are things where I too,
that's what we're not talking
would start
about.
Going,
yeah.
Weird.
When I'll caveat this with this. Stephanie has never been brought in. Stephanie
I was just
is not
so I'm going to pause you only for
on
this.
The side.
How would you, or how have you, Morgan, in the past handled, let's say that my scenario of the like where you're like, it's a guy friend at work and they're starting to vent to you about the women, and this is a platonic friend of mine. Even though the guy may be attracted to me, we are friends, and I am making it clear to this woman, because we all know women are jealous, and society pins us against each other.
Exactly.
So how would you handle making sure that this friendship with someone of the opposite sex is vetted and approved by the other person? Like that everything's okay.
You're saying if I'm friends with the guy,
you're friends with the guy at work, and he has a girlfriend or significant other.
How they would?
How do you handle it?
I mean, I can reference what's happened to me previously.
So that's why,
it was just we at this stage doesn't even matter, but we were, just young and in our 20s, and so just a lot of time to like we're making friends, having fun in work. We're working in office, out of work, and it just became this significant other of I was actually friends with the guy before they started dating.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was coming back home with me. Like this person was friends with knew all the sisters, everything, and was coming back home for this like event back at home and staying with mom and dad. And on that weekend, the friend said, hey, I'm just going to call her Tiffany. It was like laughing. It was like, Tiffany wants to meet you. And they were new in their relationship. And I was like, would love to meet Tiffany. I'd only heard great things. And I should say this, caveat it with this friend of mine. We wouldn't have been friends if he was the kind of guy that was just talking shit about a girl that he was seeing. And I would love to meet her, and met. She understood immediately that I was absolutely not a threat. Her and I started making our own relationship. Now, I will say, me and this guy, God, how long have we been friends now? Oh my God. 20 years, literally 20 years, 18 years. No, sorry, 15 like years 15. Later. 15 years later. Still I am absolutely texting him. I'm not making plans with his wife on a group chain with Joe. with all four of us, I will make plans with her. But I'm not saying your relationship then needs to be your best friends with the girl. I'm just saying there was then an immediate understanding of her and I have a relationship as well. We are all invited to the same things. And when for some reason we're doing a thing on our own, lunch, drinks, whatever, it's a complete understanding that this person there is absolutely zero threat because I am going to defend her before I'm going to defend him if there's certain things too. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally.
From a woman's side of things, she knows I will stop and say, no, I disagree with you. Tiffany, as a woman, I would have totally done the same thing. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, she knows I'm a girl's girl, I guess is where I'm going.
And that's the thing. She knows you're a girl's girl, and even in that scenario, you were friends with your male friend. You were coworkers first. Yes. Like you said, before they started dating. So then you have the other scenario, which is the friendship starts after the relationship is the romantic relationship is established, and then you, Morgan, come into the scene as the coworker or the whatever, a friend from the yoga teacher training.
I gotta welcome you with open arms. I have to, when you're around, I know
you have to make a little bit more of an effort.
Make sure that they are aware of like the type of person I am, and they have my cell phone number, and there is. Yeah, like I make sure that there is a known understanding of like, I'm not a threat.
Right.
I'm not saying like, don't text me and start asking me like, same dynamic of like, don't start talking shit or asking me like, Beth or not Beth, Ben didn't, do this or this or this. Like, what do you think I should do?
Yeah,
I don't want to be involved in that.
The safe place, the primary, exactly like you're saying, the loyalty. Yeah. You're loyal, but that core friendship, the friendship you made with the person of the opposite sex first.
Yes.
That is the friendship. You're not now, you can be a girl's girl and a guy's girl. Mm-hmm. You're a friend first. You're not, if he's coming to you in confidence saying,
I'm having a hard time.
I'm having a hard time. Stephanie and I have been having some issues. You're like, it's one thing too if he's just like, I don't know.
Needs advice and wants to talk.
Advice, and he wants a female perspective.
Yes.
So that, because also at this point, Stephanie should feel really good that, great, he's got Morgan as well to go to. Exactly. Because this is the thing. Like we talked about with already, we've kind of made this topic or this point very clear. Guys don't always or typically continue to go and ask more probing questions with the how are you. I can't tell you how many times, and this happened to me at a younger age when I'm dating someone who had a group of guy friends. Most of the guys were single. I was kind of like the established girlfriend, right? And those guys would also then come to me. The friends of the guy I was dating at the time would come to me for advice and things. And I remember this one guy in particular, he had been in a relationship and I really liked the girl. And he was, going through his life, he was thinking that things had been rocky. He was like, I don't know, I might want to end it. And was kind of in this, I want to be single again. Again, he was like in his, I don't know, let's call it mid-20s. And I said, first of all, I'm not in your relationship. And, I personally think, again, I'm going to keep using the name Stephanie. I think Stephanie is a great girl, seems to have her head on straight. But one, you don't want to waste anybody's time. But I just want you to also think about this before you just are like, I want to go fuck other people because I'm just, 26 and wanting to go cheat. And I don't want to cheat. Mm-hmm. Tonight you break up with her. Tomorrow, what does your day look like? These conversations that you're calling me about the breakup, before she was in the picture, I was the one you were calling to talk about jobs, to talk about when you were off, when you were down in the dumps. A lot of times, again, society puts it on us, and because women are the communicators and men, there's also these societal norms where how many of your male friends do you know, especially that were single, talk to therapists?
I'm telling them, I'm actually actively, I could think of multiple people right now that I've said, I've opened up and said, I see a therapist. I think you need to see one too.
Right. And there's that, guys need to be tough, that toxic masculinity piece where it's like, don't share your feelings, don't go there. where then when a woman comes into your life, especially when it's that first relationship or just relationships always, it's like, I remember I got broken up with one time and I literally looked at the guy and I laughed and I said, have fun tomorrow when you don't know how to figure out your shit. Have fun tomorrow when you don't have anybody to call to whine about your family dynamic or talk about how you don't know what to do with X or want job advice. Women don't just take on that mental load of, I've got to get the kids scheduled, or they become this built-in therapist for a lot of guys. And that's an added mental load burden. And so I say that too, because when you have that opposite sex friendship, or like I'll use my examples. This is Stacey. So when Cease, his closest girlfriend, who I remember Joe and I started dating like just right before COVID, and she was not someone from childhood. I didn't know her. And, you know, he had been on the phone with her randomly, texting her, told me about her. And I didn't feel threatened because I know what it's like. And I've had to vouch and say to so many guys before, like, hey, just FYI, I know this can be harder here, but like, these are my best guy friends. We're really close. You know, it is what it is. I was relieved because I didn't know he had a female friend. And I was
and that can be hard when they don't understand. Yeah.
Oh, good, because I didn't know if he was going deep with his guy friends, you know, venting to them, asking, how are you? But I was like, I know this girlfriend because he had told me things that she was going through, not in like, not giving her tea, asking. Yeah. But he was like, oh, you know, I wish she would just like, she's so great about how to find a guy. And so, yes, I know she's asking. And then he would also, in the way of, he knew because it was COVID times, physically I wasn't going to meet her for a while. He would share with me some of their conversations, just the topic. So that way I understood. He was like, you know, she was so excited that we're together, that, you know, to give me those understandings. Right.
Yeah.
Because it is like, again, with that putting in the work, again, using this example of when I was in my 20s dating this guy, that there was a lot of single dudes that then I became everybody's like go-to venter. As those guys started dating women, I used to joke with some of them and be like, and the guy I was dating at the time being like, I can't be at another party where it's just like girls over here, guys over here, because I'm like, I want to hang with the guys. Like, I'm more... Not just say guys overall, this particular
You're
group.
Saying this
Sometimes
there's
a girl. They're my friend.
Don't force me over into the corner talking with the women because I'm a woman.
Yeah.
Like,
and I said, but I like can't do it. But at the same time, I did do it. I would always make sure I did it.
Yes.
And again, I'm not saying everyone, just sometimes you don't mesh with everybody, right?
Yeah.
I'm going out of my way to make sure they are finding connection with me, a level of trust.
That you're a girl's girl.
That I'm a girl's girl. Because you're an everybody's girl.
Because I will say, there are women that will be like, I don't like women. That's why I always have guy friends. Oh, God, you know who I'm thinking
of? And they cross boundaries.
You know
They're the girl that you're like, you're a guy's girl, but like, why are you the one naked at a party with all the guys when you guys are like chilling, playing video games?
Yes, or
why
like
aren't
always
you with your
seeking
clothes
attention.
on?
You know who I'm thinking of? That Alex Cooper had some, I don't know her at all, a YouTuber on or something.
Oh.
And was talking about how she literally doesn't have any friends and especially never had any girlfriends.
That's a red flag.
That's a red flag.
That's a red flag.
And that's the thing.
Not only did I have my sisters, I have very close girlfriends.
A woman that says, I don't like women. I like guys. This is why I don't hang out with guys.
Good luck with having a life of no drama, because you're going to have way more drama without girlfriends.
And just, that is not a healthy headspace to think that you need to separate yourself from women because women are drama. No, the women you've been hanging out with are drama.
Yeah.
My girlfriends, Morgan speaking, like my girlfriends from childhood, from college, from my adult life, they are no drama. These are women that are girls that we are, you know, maybe it's the country girl in us, you know, that we're like, we want to just go run through the field and laugh and have a good time and be able to talk. And like that is a huge, and that's what I think don't misunderstand that we're saying male friendships are more important. Absolutely not. We're just highlighting the importance of opposite sex friendships.
Yes, opposite sex. And I think, like you were saying, exactly that, opposite sex, because just like we talked about in, I think it was episode 1 of the Racists and Bigots Who Can't Sit With Us, different perspectives. Just like how if I'm friends with someone who is Asian, it's a different perspective than I have in life. If I'm friends with a guy, it's a different perspective than I have in life. A friend that's gay, whatever, you get it. Giving you that different perspective, not just helping you selfishly, and I say selfishly loosely, in your friendships, your career relationships, but also in society, what's going on. Because to me, if I'm a guy and like everything going on when Roe v. Wade got overturned, yeah, that's going to impact you, because if you're a man and you slip one past the goalie on a one-night stand or whatever.
All of it.
All of it. I'm just using that as an example.
Totally.
That's going to impact you if you live in a state now where there's no choice but you have to go through with this pregnancy. But it's also not just the hard obvious, and that to me, it's the hard obvious, right, of what this law might impact. It's the emotional piece. It's also the, oh, well, did you also know as a woman, if you have a miscarriage, that this is what you go through? Stuff that is not obvious and in the headlines, unless you're hearing from women or other people, different perspectives, you don't always know the true impact of something. Not just the impact, you may not be naturally going a step further to do the research and understanding, oh,
what
this
it's
is
really
large.
like
What's
to
it,
be
what's
in
it
that
like,
person's
and to
shoes.
be able to put it in this humanizes, exactly, to be able to make it relatable to you, where you're
just
like, now you're thinking about Stacey. Now you're thinking about Stace in that position. And oh my God, what would have happened to her had she not been able to get this type of care?
And that, you know what? I think you are wrapping us up right here, right now. And this is why I'm saying that, is because this is what we're getting at. This is the theme of Do It With the Story, is welcome in, welcome in. Think about what it's like to be someone else. And if you don't know, listen. We're telling you these stories, and that's our point of the opposite sex friendships. You are going to have a deeper understanding of what it's like to be a woman in corporate America, what it's like to be a single mom, what it is like to be a white cisgender male in 2024 that is like trying to learn and understand and realizing, oh my gosh, some of the white cis males that I'm around are putting up, and we talked about this on the panel with Jennifer Esposito at the Annapolis Film Festival, of what I brought it up actually, of white males in corporate America or just in different roles in society, thinking that they have to know the answer, thinking that they have to be tough.
Oh my
thinking
gosh.
that
They refuse to say, I don't know.
I don't know. Or, just feeling like they have to be strong, can't be vulnerable,
they
can't put the
show
guard
up
down.
weak. And I say that in quotes.
Yes.
Exactly. Because
And
they
then
were growing up with the boys don't cry,
Yes.
men provide, we are this and that.
And then you realize you're pushing back on them, and you're like, that's not correct. I'm smart. I'm in this career too.
Right.
I'm in this job too. And being able to reference and say, no. I see that you are putting on the front of, I know because I feel like I have to, but let me tell you, you shouldn't have said what you just said in that meeting. And here's why.
And also, in that too, careers are very different, right? You can be in more of a, like, again, female dominated, male dominated, and be the opposite sex.
Yes.
And let's also talk about, or not to get into it, but this is something I think would be great. We can discuss maybe in a further episode, but some of these societal norms, especially for our generation, we're seeing less and less. You're seeing women, you're seeing people have children later on for a variety of reasons. You're seeing more women waiting later to have kids because of their careers, the need for a 2-income household. You're seeing more men making less than women ever, or being the stay-at-home dad. So if you're a stay-at-home dad and the predominantly other are stay-at-home moms, you better have an opposite friendship, because you're not able to have that relatability to your friends that have kids that are dads.
Yes.
So there's so much of where it's, again, breaking down the barriers, seeing the other perspective, but seeing that what is different is good, and it's learning. And with the right communication, boundaries, and respect, you can benefit as an individual, but your other relationships, your career, really everything can benefit and flourish in your family. And normalizing it for your kids at a young age that it's okay. Mommy does have, guy friends, and daddy does have friends that are women, and together they have friends. So it's not weird for me to be at the playground. I don't have to be this, no, I don't, I'm just friends with this girl. I don't love her. You're less likely to worry about what others may say when you're just worried about living life and using your curiosity to really, I don't know, fuel this environment of welcoming.
And be in an atmosphere. And I just, again, to kind of close it out, come back to, so many we're so lucky to have so many groups of beautiful friendships, but last night, since that's where we started this conversation and ending it there, it was a beautiful evening. We had a mix of children that were boys and girls playing together and all, outside in the field with the chickens and inside playing with the dolls and, all of the things. While their parents, same thing. Our conversations are, there was the girls are over in this corner. And I'm not saying, of course, there's a moment where the other mom who's hosting the party, I'm absolutely talking to her about certain things. But we're overlapping. I also then was sitting down with her husband, who I've known since he was 14, and talking about because those are nourishing. We all need each other in that way. We all need that.
And we need different perspectives. That was the thing. And I always love that this group is because our common denominator is where we grew up, but we all are so different. Different backgrounds, different family dynamics, different careers. And it always comes back to an environment of welcoming.
And that was also the other thing that I meant to say, and you were taking the words out of my mouth, but that environment of welcoming, but that diversity of people and friendship. And I don't just mean the color of our skin. Yes, and religion and kids and no kids and divorced couples and, all the things. I genuinely feel like our Williams sisters, our lives are so rich because, and Donahue always brings this up, that he has always been so impressed and just, impressed and inspired by how every event that is centered around or invited or we're hosting, but centered around our friends, the Williams sisters, there's so much diversity. And again, I don't just mean the color of our skin. I mean, and realizing how beautiful that is and how his world has opened up so much, and not just for the betterment of him, but for his understanding of what's going on with others around him.
I've heard that a lot with even guys I dated in the past of like, I've learned so much from you, but not about my experience. I've learned so much from you via this. I've dated guys that, had the closed-minded high school view of like being gay. And they're like, oh my gosh, being able to now be in a room with gay men that I otherwise wouldn't have because I wouldn't have extended that. And I'm learning so much.
I mean, we're talking about our age group. We're talking about my husband who went to the Naval Academy. That was don't ask, don't tell time.
Right.
Like that's what we're talking about. It wasn't that they didn't want them. They weren't even allowed to discuss it. So we're talking about, and that's my point. You're never too old to make a new friend.
Yeah.
And I have plenty of them, friends that are 70s,
it's like,
60s.
Bring in the friends.
Bring it in.
But do remember, especially if you're in a romantic relationship, like respect your partner, have boundaries, be transparent, don't be weird. And if you're the partner that is discouraging it because of something that maybe happened to you in the past or a level of trust, like that's work you have to do. And do meet people where they are, do meet this other friend, but like, just understand that there are benefits to the opposite sex friendship, but there also needs to be a mutual understanding, a mutual level of respect, and welcome in.
I genuinely think that's the perfect place to end it.
Anyway, so thanks for joining us. Cheers, Diffs. Please remember to like us give us a positive review if you're so inclined, wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, but do share. We've been getting amazing feedback. Say,
that's the biggest thing. Thank you for continuing to give us amazing feedback. But feedback and likes and reviews only go so far. We need you all to share it. Send it
to someone. And I think too, in this time, this is where I will final thing. In this time of there's so much shit going on in the world, it feels like a dumpster fire. And a lot of what at least I see reels that are fed to me on Instagram, it's a lot of like talking about the toxic male masculinity or toxic masculinity. And, you know, there does seem to be men. Don't group all men into that. There are a lot of great men who are our allies. Find them and vice versa. And I think, you know, we'll all learn and nurture and be better together.
Welcome them in.
So cheers.
Divas, love you guys.
See you next week.
Bye.